Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a live dairy tour. I'm your host, Callie Akabishin, and I work on behalf of dairy farmers in the Southeast. We have a treat for you today. We have you visiting a farm in Kentucky. And as a registered dietitian, I help to teach people about delicious dairy and connect them with the amazing farmers like the farmer we have today who make it all possible. So today our team is at Crist Dairy Farm in Edmonton, Kentucky with dairy farmer Billy Crist. Billy and his wife, Julie, farmed in various locations before they bought their current farm in 2010, where they now milk over 600 cows. He was introduced to the dairy life working on his grandparents' dairy farm in the summers and through his dad, who is a dairy specialist at the University of Kentucky. We are so excited for Billy to give you a behind-the-scenes look at how dairy cows are cared for, fed, and milked on his family's farm. Before we get started, I want to be sure you know how to get your questions through to us on this live tour. So if you're joining on Zoom, use the Q&A feature. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, put your questions in the chat or comment section. We're going to answer as many as we can, so please don't be shy. We really want to hear from you. And on that note, I'm going to turn it over to Billy on the farm. Where are we starting, Billy?
Everybody. We're starting in what we call the PreFresh Barn. This is the most important barn on this farm. And the reason why this is because this is 3 weeks before they have babies. This is where we put them. On a normal lactation, the cow is she's pregnant. When she gets pregnant, she'll be pregnant for 9 months, and in the last 60 days, we'll put her dry. And we've got a barn in the back of the farm that we put them. As soon as we put them dry, we'll give them some medicine. To make sure that they don't get any infections or anything like that. And we'll put them back there. Then 3 weeks before calving, we'll move them up here to this barn up here close up front so we can keep a closer eye on them. They've got a certain diet they're on, just like the nutritionist. Our nutritionist gives us a certain diet to get them steamed up, ready to go. So after they have a baby that they can come into milk, and we hopefully don't have any issues of them being sick. Go ahead, Callie. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, it sounds like all eyes are on deck on that barn, waiting for those mamas to have their cows.
Well, yeah, like I said, this is the most important place on the farm. Because a good start, it's just like anything. A good start, a good start of the day, it's going to start off for the rest of her whole lactation. So
Sure.
We got to watch her and be careful how she has a baby and what she does afterwards, and getting a good start and get going.
And are there advantages to having them kind of in that barn, that more kind of controlled area, than having them maybe waiting out in the field or something like that?
Yeah, in here we can control their diet. That's the biggest thing, is we can control their diet, what they're getting and what they're not getting. And if we have some issues with cows, we can check certain things, metabolical issues or something like that, and we can make some changes and try to correct the problem in here instead of just being out on the field. And if they're grazing, we can't control what they're eating or how much they're eating or when they're eating or anything.
Yeah.
So, but they always, these girls always have feed in front of them, but it's a special diet that they get just for them, just before they're having 3 weeks before they have a baby.
And how do you know, other than time wise, like, do the cows show signs that they're about to have the baby? How do you know?
Yeah, they will. They'll get up and they'll start switching their tail, and their udders will get really big, or some of them will get really big. And you can tell they'll walk more, be restless, and then you can always lay down when they'll lay down and start pushing.
Okay.
And you'll see visual signs like that. And but we have people coming every hour, at least once an hour and a half. They'll come by and check and make sure that nobody's in labor.
Okay.
And if they are in labor, they'll give them a certain amount of time and then assist when necessary.
Okay. We got a question from the audience. They want to know, do the cows ever have twins?
Oh yeah, they have twins. Seems like it's becoming more frequent, but we have twins. Quite often, matter of fact. But
do they ever have more than twins? Do they ever have triplets?
You have triplets once in a while. I think I've seen maybe 3 sets of triplets since I've been dairy farming. I think that's all. I think we've had 1 set here since 2010. You don't see that very often.
Okay. Wow. Well, that was really fun to kind of meet all the cows and, that are getting ready to have babies and kind of see where it all starts out. Without these mama cows, we wouldn't have delicious dairy foods like milk and yogurt and cheese. So speaking of delicious dairy foods, we want to hear from you. So we're going to put up a poll question. We want to know, what is your favorite dairy food? And if you are joining us on Facebook or YouTube, just type your answer into the chat. Otherwise, answer the poll via the Zoom prompt. So what is your favorite dairy food? So while we're waiting on responses, I'm going to ask Billy, what's your favorite dairy food?
My favorite dairy food is cheese. I can put cheese on about anything. Okay. It doesn't matter what kind, but I like really sharp cheddar cheese or blue cheese.
Got it. Okay. Well, nice. Let's see. So all of this talk about food is making me hungry. So, here we go. What is your favorite dairy food? So ice cream overwhelmingly won that poll with 85%. And we've got cheese at 9%. We got some milk and chocolate milk in there. So I could totally relate to that. I'm a big ice cream fan for sure. So we're going to keep going on the tour. And where are we now, Billy?
That we just walked into the parlor. They're just finishing it up this morning, finishing up milking on the morning milking. We milk 3 times a day, so we'll start back here around 12:30 this afternoon. But they're just finishing up now, as you can see. These cows come in here, and they're usually, for these last cows of this group, they would have been in the holding pen maybe 50 minutes to an hour, as long as they'd have to wait to milk. So basically, they're up 3 hours a day. Coming in here, the last cows are. In this parlor here, they come through the back side of the barn. They come in here and they turn, and we can meter how much milk they give every milking. I can go in there and look up a cow, and it would tell me how much she gave this morning, and then yesterday afternoon and last night. How much she gave and how much she gave for the day. I know exactly how it is, and I can keep up with that. I can track that. If someone's getting sick, I can tell if one's getting sick, because she'll decrease in milk production. It's a good way for me to keep up with it and be able to tell somebody if the cow needs treated or doesn't need treated. Okay.
And what about does milking ever hurt the cows? I mean, is that what's that process like for them?
No, it doesn't hurt. Matter of fact, if we're an hour late or something happens and we're late this little bit, the cows will be standing up by the gate just bawling, just wanting to come get milked. I mean, to take that pressure off their udder. Okay. That's what they want. So no, that's what this is. I mean, no, there's no pain involved in it or anything like that.
Okay. And what about, how much milk does a cow give every day?
Well, on our farm right now, we're averaging about 90 pounds a day, which that means that on average, a cow will give 90 pounds. I've got some cows that'll give 100, and I think I got a few that are giving 160 or above, and then some, that are about ready to go dry down around 50 pounds a day. But on average, on this farm, we're right at 90 pounds a day per cow.
Uh-huh. And you were saying, so the cows are milked 3 times a day. About how long does it take to milk them?
Anywhere between 5 to 8 minutes. It's just depending on the cow and what's going on. But like I said, what we do is when we milk them, they'll 16 will come on in each side, and when they get 16 in, the employees will go down through there with an iodine dip and dip the cow's teat ends, and what that's supposed to do is kill the bacteria, and then they'll come back and strip it to make sure there's no kind of milk that's not right, or they have mastitis or anything like that that's in the milk, and then they'll wipe that iodine off, and then they'll put the milkers on, so that'll help her release her oxytocin, which in turn helps her milk out faster. And then once they get done milking, they put they dip them again with an iodine barrier solution that's supposed to help keep from any bacteria coming up into the udder. Okay. And then they'll let them loose, and then they go back to their barn and hopefully lay down and drink and eat and just relax until there's time to milk again.
So they're really only being milked about I don't know, on average, like 20 minutes a day, it kind of sounds like, and the rest of the day, they're just kind of hanging out and eating.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. We can, like I said, we can do 100 cows, really a little bit more than 100 cows an hour is what
Okay.
we milk.
Okay.
So, I mean, so there, yeah, the first cow's in, they're not in a holding pen and they're back in the group pretty quick, within, like you said, 20 minutes or so,
Yeah. And
so.
Once you milk, where does this milk go to? Like, where does the milk go after they like get milked in the parlor?
Well, milk comes into a receiver jar well down here at the end of the pit, and then it'll be pumped over into a milk tank. And I don't know if you can see the receiver jar there. It's that big round jar that's down there. It gets pumped into there, then it'll tell when it gets about 3/4 full, it'll be pumped over into up and over, and it comes into the up here into the milk house.
Okay. Yeah, I see there. It looks like we're walking into the tank room.
This tank room right here,
Okay.
and then it gets pumped into this tank. This is an 8,000 gallon tank. So this will hold 8,000 gallons of milk, and right now we're shipping about 57,000 pounds of milk a day, and it comes once a day to pick it up, and it comes every day to pick it up. And when it gets picked up, it goes down to a bottling plant, and it gets bottled up, pasteurized and bottled up, and sent to stores.
Okay. And what about, so we got a question from the audience, and I think it's important to address, is someone asked kind of along the lines of like, what do you do if bacteria gets into the milk? But I think kind of the general question is like, how do you make sure that the milk is safe for people to drink, that it doesn't have antibiotics in it and all that good and all that stuff?
Any cow that we treat with antibiotics is, we put 2 red leg bands on her, and it goes into a bucket, and we'll throw away that milk. And we'll throw away that milk, and so it doesn't get into the tank. And like I said, if somebody says that it's antibiotic free, any kind of food, well, especially milk, if anybody says it's antibiotic free, it is, because everything's antibiotic free. I mean, that's just the labeling, not marketing thing that they say, but any meat or anything like that has to be antibiotic free for us to sell it. If it's not, if we get 1 drop of penicillin or add 1 drop of anything in this tank that's not supposed to be in there, they'll pick it up, and I'll end up having to dump that load and have to pay for that load. So it's not worth me taking a chance of it being in there.
Right. Yeah. So, and I think we talked about this yesterday, but I think a lot of the confusion is that some products on their label says antibiotic free, some don't. So people think that some do and some don't, but it's really just labeling. At the end of the day, it is illegal to sell milk that has any sort of antibiotics in it. So
that's right.
And I think it's helpful to hear straight from you that there is absolutely no incentive to be trying to sell milk that has anything in it that's not supposed to be in it.
No, it would cost me way too much money.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, so we're going to move on a little bit, but as you can see, this is a very important part of the farm. I know that when I first went to a dairy farm, that I was really surprised by how much technology there was in place while the cows were being milked. Farmer Billy was talking about, he knows exactly how much milk each cow is giving each day. Like, that is wild. But when the cows aren't being milked, which is most of the day, they hang out in the barn. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the cows that are here and what Farmer Billy has to manage with these cows. So I think
we're going into the first barn. We got 3 barns basically just like this. There's basically about 115 cows on each side, and all the way back through there. I mean, there's 6 different groups. This is their home. When this is their house. When they get done milking, this is where they come and they stay. Like I said, right now, right down through the middle here, you can see the feed. Feed is put out twice a day, once in the morning and then again once in the afternoon to try to keep it as fresh as possible for them. And like these little lockups here, we can set them so where they can be locked up. And what we'll do with that is, if we need to treat a cow, or cows need to be bred, or sick cow, or just checking a cow, want to check a cow, we'll lock them down, and so we can work with them and so they won't hurt themselves. And the first 14 days after calving, we'll check every one of them's temperature every morning, just to make sure that they don't have any infections or anything like that. Like I said, it goes back to the beginning of their lactation is the most important thing, because I mean, if you get them started off strong, they'll usually milk pretty strong. And well, we use sawdust for bedding. This is what you call bedded pack. And what we do is we go a compost barn. And so what we do is we'll go through here twice a day, and we'll till this and mix up everything up. And what it'll do, it'll start heating underneath of it. And what they'll say is, I mean, they starts eating itself, and it'll degrade on its own as long as it has the heat to do that. And we usually haul this out once a year. And what we'll do is we'll take it out, haul it out, and put it on our fields. And then that way we'll use that for fertilizer for our next year's corn crop. So it doesn't cost me as much for fertilizer.
Okay. And I think you said part of what makes that up is like shavings from cabinets or something like that.
Yeah, we get most of this is coming from a factory that builds or that makes cabinets.
Okay. So you're reusing some of those ingredients. Talk to me a little bit about, I know they mean it's hopefully cooling down a little bit, but what do you do to keep the cows comfortable in the middle of the summer? Like, do you have any sort of things that keep them not so hot?
Well, you can see these fans that are running, they run 24/7. So they're running all the time, all summer long. And that's what we got used to keep down. And then these open sidewalls, I mean, if any kind of breeze, they're going to come through, it's going to come through and try to cool them off. That's what we do to try to keep them cooler. Some people will dribble water on top of them through this feed alley, but we have never done that, because I'm always worried about it dragging into the bedded pack, the moisture bedded into the bedded pack and making it too wet.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, and is it does the heat I think I've heard this before, like, does the heat affect how much milk the cow gives? Like, why is it so important to keep them comfortable?
Yeah, it'll affect them, because the only way a cow sweats is through their mouth and panting. So what they'll do is they'll pant and they won't chew their cud when they're hot. And if you can see, I don't know if Denise show you this cow standing there, right there chewing her cud, just her mouth moving. Well, she just quit. But anyway, she when she's chewing cud, she's making milk and she's regurgitating. But if they're standing there panting because they're hot, they won't do that because they're panting, and they'll be under stress, and they just won't they won't do it as much. It's just think about wearing a leather coat all day long, when it's 95 degrees. That's basically what they're doing.
So, keeping them comfortable, it sounds like a big part of just your business practice. You have to, in order to be, have a successful business as a dairy farmer, it sounds like.
Yes, it is. That's what I tell this is exactly what I tell my employees. Basically every meeting we have, I just remind them every time we have a meeting that I might write your checks, but I don't pay you. The cows pay you. You got to keep them comfortable and keep them happy if you want to keep on getting paid.
So that's a really good incentive.
That's basically our main goal on this farm, is to keeping these girls happy and comfortable.
Yeah. Okay. We're getting quite a few questions coming in, and we're going to answer them. A lot of them are about the calves, so people are very excited to see them, which we will see the calves. But some of the questions we're getting is like, how many pounds of food is eaten per day by the cows? Do you know that?
Yeah, on the high end, the cows that are milking, the highest, the most, like this group, and then there's another group back there that probably are their milk. They're as fed basis, some of them are eating close to 110 pounds a day, 115 pounds a day, which translates basically, if you take the moisture out, it would be around 55 to 60 pounds of dry matter, is the way a lot of people talk in the dairy industry. Okay. And so the more dry matter they eat, the more pounds they eat, the more milk they give. Okay. So I think the high cow rations are balanced for about 115 pounds per cow, I believe is what it is. Okay.
And then we have another question, and that is how many cows did you start out with? I know you kind of had a couple different farms before this farm, but maybe on this specific farm, how many cows did you start out with?
Well, we started out with, basically about 3 months after me and my wife got married, we leased a place and we started out on our own, and we bought 80 cows. Okay. And we've just increased from 80 cows. That had been 25 years ago.
Okay.
We started at 20 or 80 cows, so we just
Uh-huh.
increased from there.
Nice. Well, we're going to kind of we're moving on here, but we've got another poll question coming up, before we visit what's going to be kind of basically the cow kitchen. So the poll question is, true or false, dairy cows often have their very own nutritionists. So as we wait for answers to come in, I thought it might be helpful to kind of hear from Farmer Billy. Who do you work with on the farm other than just yourself to help take care of the cows? Like, do you work with a vet regularly? Do you work with anyone else to help make sure that the cows are cared for?
Yeah, we do. We have a vet that I've been with him ever since we've been here we moved down this area in '99. But yeah, we use a vet. He comes out twice a week or once every 2 weeks for herd check to just check cows and pregnancies and stuff like that. And I got a feed company I work with that has a nutritionist on staff. Or am I not supposed to
Well,
spill
no,
beans on that
it's
yet?
okay. Yeah, we answered the question. So the cows do have a nutritionist.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I work with him on that. And he balances ration for each group on the stage of their lactation and how they're doing and everything else. I mean, it's not really an individual cow as much as it is a group, by the groups. But yes, we do. And then you've got a lot of people that help out. I mean, you're talking from seed salesmen, fertilizer salesmen, that help out, in the cropping end of stuff or people. And then you got equipment salesmen. I mean, just there's a lot of people that help out in the dairy industry, farming industry. I mean, it's a big industry. Agriculture is a big industry, and supports a lot of people.
Sure,
a lot of people.
Yeah, and you were just talking about, you have lots of employees on your farm too that you work with to help take care of the cows, because I don't think you could do it all by yourself.
Oh no, yeah, my employees are very important.
Yeah.
Very, very important.
Okay, so it looks like we're in front of the cow kitchen now, which is, I think, you call the commodity shed. Is that right, Farmer?
Yeah, this is a commodity shed.
Okay.
What we're looking at here, this big pile of it's just what they call a complex feed. It's all together. It's all mixed together. It's got grain, soybeans, cottonseed hulls. Like I said, any more than that, I'd have to go back to the nutritionist or the papers and look and see everything that's in it. To break it all down, because it's got a lot of ingredients in it. But everything that's in this is based on trying to help these girls stay healthy and through their lactation and produce as much milk as they can.
Mm-hmm.
What we do every year after corn silage, we get done chopping corn silage. That's the main ingredient on this farm is basically corn that we chop up and put in a big pile, and we use that, and we'll make a ingredients list and base it off basically what else we need in the diet that the corn silage cannot handle or cannot put into it. So that's basically what this is.
Sure. And what
then
about?
We use I was going to say we use
go ahead.
a wet distiller's grain, which basically is byproduct of Maker's Mark. So Maker's Mark whiskey. So we get that byproduct, and put it in also for the cattle.
Okay. So, and I think I've seen this on other farms too, and it's really interesting. It's usually just kind of geographically based, but a lot of farms are using byproducts, like Billy said, from, they're using it from a local distillery, but maybe it's, down in some areas are using like leftover, like orange parts of like oranges that like orange pulp or something like that. And, otherwise these foods would kind of not really have a use, and dairy farmers are able to use them and then turn them into nutritious milk. So it's really cool to hear how we're able to recycle on the farm here. What about let's see, I think we're kind of move along, but one of the last question here is I kind of was wondering, do cows have favorite foods?
Well, ours is based basically off corn silage, and okay. That's corn diet. I can't ask a cow, but just being around them,
yeah,
being around them, that's a big part of their diet is corn. Is the corn, and then like I said, in the bean meals and stuff like that. So it's basically, it's mostly plant it's plant based.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so yeah, I mean, I guess they do. You know, I don't know. I haven't been able to ask one. You know, that'd be
Yeah.
kind of a kind of a neat trick, wouldn't it? They'd be able to ask
We'll
one
have
or
to
tell
we'll have to
me.
pull them next. Yeah. So
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, but it's really neat to see all the food that these cows eat that humans can't and then gets turned into nutritious milk. And obviously, as you can hear, that farmers know how important a healthy diet is to keep their cows healthy. That's why they have those cow nutritionists to help them. But now that you've seen how much a cow eats, we have another poll and want to see how much you think a cow weighs. So remember, if you're watching on YouTube and Facebook, to just type that answer into the chat. So we want to see how much do you think a cow weighs? And this is kind of on average because they will vary. But as we wait for those responses to come in, I just want to kind of make a note that taking care of these large animals is a huge responsibility, as you can see. And on top of that, dairy farmers also have the responsibility of taking
More
care
air
of
down here.
I don't think we kind of alluded to it, but Farmer Billy is also growing a lot of the food that his cows eat. So, but you might not know this, but US Dairy is very intentional with their sustainability initiatives, and they've actually set a goal to become greenhouse gas neutral or better by 2050. And they're doing this by the things you're seeing here today: prioritizing cow health, optimizing milk production, and managing their manure. So let's see, do we have some of these responses coming in yet? Let's see. Okay, so the answer was about 1,500 pounds. So that's average for a Holstein kind of black and white cow, if you will. But now it looks like we are at the most highly anticipated part of the farm. Where are we now?
This is our little calf barn here. I mean, anything we have right now is just they're in here. These are bull calves. I've got a calf raiser that comes and gets them once a week, and he came yesterday. He just had to come yesterday and pick up all the girls that we had. So,
Okay.
but yeah, the calves. What we do with the calves, as soon as they're born, within the first, hopefully within the first couple of hours, they should be able to get at least a gallon. At least a gallon of colostrum. And colostrum is basically the cow's milk, first milking. And we'll keep some of that in. We'll keep some of that in the refrigerator, so we can just warm it up and give it to them when they're born, and that helps them to start everything to start strong, and that helps get their immune system build up, their immunity build up, and so they can take off and go from there, and hopefully be a healthy animal.
And we're getting so we have quite a few questions. One of our questions is, what's the average number of calves born each year? So, I mean, you might know that, but also maybe if you can answer, how many calves does a cow have every year?
Well, usually the gestation is 9 months. So basically you can have one, they can have one every 9 months, but usually once a year they'll have it. I mean, our what they call calving interval is just right at 13 months. So basically every 13 months, every year and 1 month, I mean, they'll have a baby. Okay. So, I mean, if we're having, so basically we're having right around 600 or better calves a year.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot. How many
this one right here is a little feisty.
Yeah. How many calves does one cow normally have during their lifespan?
Like I said, that depends on what it is. I think on the average, national average, I'm not 100% sure. I know I've seen the number. It's been a while since I've seen it, that it was 3 lactations. So basically 3 calves on a lifespan. Here we're probably closer to a little bit 4, maybe 4 to 5, right around there. I mean, like I said, I've had some cows here that's had 10.
Wow. We're getting some questions, and I think it's important to kind of talk about. So people want to know, you already talked about how they get the colostrum and milk, but maybe you can talk about, why are the calves in a separate area from the moms and not with their moms after that they are born?
Main reason why we do this is that for the calves' health and the mother's health, and also safety. Because I mean, I have seen the moms get a little bit excited, and 1,500-pound animal and a 100-pound calf. I mean, that poor calf sometimes can be trampled and hurt that way. And so that's the main reason why we do that. And then also, so the calf, when she gets standing up and wanting to suck on the mother, and beating on her her udder and injuring her udder or maybe hurting her that way. And so that's the main reason why we do that. And then we can control exactly the feed. It's still just what we can control, put in them, so we know that they're getting enough feed or food in them.
Okay.
Is another thing is for the baby.
Uh-huh. And how much are the babies born when they first, or how much do they weigh when they're first born?
They can, I mean, really it's all over, but usually right around 75, 80 pounds, but they can be 125 pounds and they can be 30 pounds. I mean, Holsteins are going to be bigger than some of the other ones, like a Jersey or something like that.
Okay. I think I saw, and I'm having some help with people typing answers. We're getting great questions in, but someone had asked a question of basically, do you have any brown cows on your farm? And I always think that's an interesting question because I wasn't aware of the different types of cows before I started working with dairy farmers. So maybe talk about why the black and white cows, why you choose to raise Holstein or those black and white cows.
We've had some brown ones,
Okay.
but it's not, but they're not very few and far between. The reason why we've done Holstein is just because their production. I mean, they're just a better producing. To me, they're a better producing. They produce more milk, and it's they take food or their feed and make it into milk. They make more milk. I mean, there's Jerseys, some of these other ones. I mean, I understand why some people have them is because they're the butter fat is higher, their components are higher than the Holsteins. It's just something that I've always had was just Holstein cattle, and I mean, there's no right or wrong one. It's just that's what we've always preferred. And I've got some Holsteins crosses that have been bred to Jerseys and stuff like that in here too. I mean, it's like I said, we've had a couple Jerseys here. They're few and far between now.
Yeah. So basically, there's different types of cows, and there's benefits of having them. But like Farmer Billy was talking about, those Holstein cows they are really good at making a lot of milk.
Yes, they are.
Kind of the impression that I always got. So now that we have, let's see if real quick, maybe you could answer one more question in this section that's related is, how long are your cows typically in labor for?
Oh boy. I mean, that's can be all over the board too. I mean, they could start, some of the younger ones, I mean, they could be really officially what you call in labor for 8 hours, 8, 9, 10 hours even. I mean, but you just got to be careful with them. And some will be in labor for an hour. I mean, it's just really hard to give you an average. I mean, or a certain time. I mean, it's just like anything else in life. You just, when it comes to that, you just never know.
Right. So. Okay. Well, now that we have met the calves, we need help with a very important task. So we need help from you people viewing to name one of the calves. So if you have any suggestions for Farmer Billy to name his next calf, type that into the poll question there. And I am excited to see everyone's very creative ideas. Our next stop, while we wait for some of those answers to come in, the next stop we're going to head to, which is our final stop, is the Lagoon, I believe. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Let's see. I will probably need a little bit more time for people to get their thoughts rolling. Maybe as we wait for those questions to come in, I got an interesting question. This is from a high school class, Farmer Billy, and they want to know they're interested in learning about jobs in the community, and they want to know about kind of job schedule. You're probably gonna laugh at this. So they want to know what your work hours are on the farm. And they also asked about other jobs, but I think we talked about some of those other jobs. So
yeah. Well, it just depending, my work schedule is not as bad as it used to be. That's for sure. When I didn't have any employees or anything like that. I mean, I've, usually start a lot of times around 4 o'clock in the morning. I did when I was just me milking, doing the milking and everything when we were smaller. I mean, and we'd milk twice a day. I would milk at 4 o'clock and it'd take a couple hours and I feed them, and then I'd milk again at 4 o'clock and I get in about 7 o'clock at night. Now, I'm not working there all day long, but it's still, you had to be there at those certain times. Now we've got 900 acres of corn and I've got 12 employees, and I'm doing other things now than what I used, not, that I didn't have to do before. It was more management. And I still get up. I don't know. I still can't sleep past 4. I'm trying to work on that, but I can't do it. So I usually
Okay.
come out here. And then on a busy day, we'll run. When we're chopping silage or doing stuff like that, I'll run till dark. We'll run till dark most of the time. But on a normal day through the winter time, if I get here at 4, I'll come out at 4 o'clock and do some paperwork and do some things and get whatever needs to be done. And some days that could be done at noon, but I mean, go in and, then you get something for lunch and then you come back out and you're always doing something. So, I
Okay.
mean, but usually my wife's off work around 3 or 4 o'clock and, now we can go and do something or something or do something like that. So it varies. I mean, you can put in a 16, 17-hour day and then some days you have 8-hour days.
Sure.
You know?
So, but long story short, being a farmer is not for the faint of heart, it sounds like. There's a lot of work hours.
Well, you gotta love it. You gotta enjoy
Yeah.
it. I mean, you
Yeah.
gotta really enjoy it. Because I mean, like you said, if you find something you love, you don't work a day in your life. So
Oh, that's awesome. Well, some of the names, we have a lot of suggestions here. Let's see we have Coach Abella Bell. There's Daisy. There's Oreo. That's a good one. We've got Fred, Buttercup. So these are some great names. We will definitely have to take these into consideration in naming the next calf. But let's talk a little bit about the Lagoon, which is our last stop on the tour. So this is basically, I think, where you store all the poop on the farm, and maybe you could talk about what you have to manage here, Billy.
Yeah, what we do is 3 times a day, every milking, what we'll do is we'll scrape their feed alley, and we'll scrape it and put it into the lagoon. And we have enough storage for 6 months, so we haul it out twice a year. And we'll stir it up real good, and then we'll take it out and with tankers, and we'll take it out. And we'll put it on our fields. It's the same thing. Fertilizer for the next crop, corn crop. We will take soil samples to see which fields needs it the worst, and we'll put them on there, and we won't put any on ones that that have too much on it already, or they're too high or too much on it. So we won't put any on those. So that's how we, manage the manures is that way. We use it for fertilizer basically. So like I said yesterday, it kind of, we use it. It's just a cycle, it goes in one end, it comes out the other, and it just keeps on going. It goes out to the field and then it comes back, in the corn, and it goes in the front end, and then, it's just a cycle is what it is.
Yeah. I recently learned, I thought it was interesting that, there's all these kind of, I mean, it's not just you making the decision of how much manure goes on the field, right? There's other people involved with that decision.
Yes, there is. I mean, like I said, I had to have a manure management plan that I have to have and supposed to follow and have to follow. And, people come out, like I said, is just we take soil samples to make sure that everything's good. That's what the field needs manure. That needs manure, we're putting it on there, and we're not putting it on one that it's already has way too much on it.
Yeah. Well, that is very, interesting, a good way, I guess, to end full circle our tour today. So we have just a few minutes left, and I wanted to use this time to ask my favorite question to Farmer Billy. And that is, and I ask this to all my dairy farmers, is what is something you wish everyone knew about being a dairy farmer?
Well, I wish everybody knew what every dairy farmer does for their animals, and that if we're milking cows, that we love our animals and we don't want to hurt them, and we want to be as nice and gentle with them as we can, and that they're taken care of very well. Yeah.
And I hear a very similar answer from a lot of our farmers. And I think it's important to understand that farmers, they're making different decisions based on their farm, based on where they're located, but all of them at the center of it have to do with how do we best manage these cows and make sure that I'm doing the best job taking care of them. So I love that. I love that insight. This has been so interesting and enjoyable. I hope that we, answered a lot of your questions. I think we answered. There's a question left here. We've got how many cows are on the farm. I think we talked about that, but you want to just clarify how many cows you have on the farm, Billy?
Just a little bit over 600.
Okay. Yeah, I think we answered that. And then someone's also asking, how big is your farm? So maybe how many acres is your farm?
Well, I've got several different ones. I mean, we got
Okay.
total about 600 acres, but I rent some. And, like I said, this year we had close to 900 acres of corn that we put all into corn silage for feed for the
Okay.
cows.
Okay. So very big. So, anyways, I really appreciate the questions that we got in from everyone. That's really great. And we hope that you enjoyed today's tour as much as we did. Before we go, I wanted to share some information about a short form documentary that the Dairy Alliance just launched. It's called The Dairy Truth. It follows we talked about like today, all these kind of different people that are involved on a dairy farm, not just the dairy farmer, and talks about some environmental experts as they talk about what dairy farmers are doing to be a steward of the land. So it's a great thing to watch if you found today interesting and you wanted to learn more. So you can scan that QR code or you can check out our YouTube channel. You can find it there. Lastly, and almost most importantly, I just want to extend a huge thanks to Billy and his family for giving us this behind the scenes look. As you heard, dairy farmers do not have a lot of time on their hands, and it is huge that he was able to share some time with us today. So thank you so, so much. And don't forget that the Dairy Alliance is your resource for all things dairy. So visit our website, thedairyalliance.com, for resources, dairy research, recipes, and news. And also you can meet more of our incredible dairy farm families across the Southeast. You can find other virtual farm tours we've done if you're interested in seeing what some other farms look like. So thank you again for joining us. We wish you a dairy good day. That's all for now.